Welcome to the Teaching Bites podcast. Here are your hosts, Fred and Sharon Jaravada.
This is the Teaching Bites show where we connect you with people and ideas to take your teaching to the next level. I'm your host. I'm Fred Jaravada. And today we have a special guest. This person here is a very good friend of mine and a special person where she was actually my boss. Well, Corinne was my master teacher in first grade for about 2 years. And then after that, I followed her into the computer lab and we worked together there for the next few years. She took some time off, came back, and worked in the makerspace, help us set that up, and she went back to the classroom and teaches fourth grade. Hi, Corinne.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay.
I didn't know I was so special.
Very special. Okay, one of the few people in this universe that is actually really cool.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm honored.
Okay, so Corinne, fill in any of those blanks that the intro I shared with our listeners, and let us know your origin story.
Okay. So my background, I've taught first, second, third, and now fourth grades. I also had a stint as a pre-kindergarten teacher for a semester. And I was a technology specialist for several years. I got into that when I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to have a job that would also allow me to possibly work part-time when I was having children, and it worked out. But then I missed the classroom. I'm happy to be back teaching fourth grade humanities.
Fourth grade humanities. Okay. So, when did you start teaching?
I started teaching in 1994 is when I started my credential program. I actually did a credential program overseas in England. I had been living in England and wanted to stay there, and had a boyfriend there that I wanted to stay and hang out with. So I did my teaching credential and teaching education in England before I moved back to the States, and then now I have a California credential.
Now, why did you choose San Francisco?
I went to college. I went to the University of San Francisco.
And
I wanted to come back. So I did a year in Atlanta where my parents lived. I moved back from England and had about $50 in my pocket and decided I needed to live at home for a while. And I taught third grade for a semester and pre-kindergarten for a semester, and then moved back to San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
I've lived here longer than anywhere else.
Than anywhere else. And you like it so far?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I do too. And here, how did you get into teaching?
Well, let's see. I started college in 1989 and didn't really know what I wanted to study. I knew I loved working with children. I bounced from one major to another. I finally ended up with a degree in psychology and religion. And part of my practicum at the end of my degree was working in a school with a first grade classroom. And being in that classroom, I loved it and decided that that's where I wanted to be.
Okay, hold on. I have some sound issues I need to fix real quick. Okay.
So I was working in a first grade classroom in San Francisco and decided that that's what I wanted to do. And by then I was already a senior in college, so I decided the best route would be to graduate with my degree as it was and then go back to school and study education and get my credential.
And you got, and again, you got your credential in San Francisco, in University of San Francisco?
No, I did it in England.
Oh, in England, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. And then I came back. I eventually got my master's degree at USF as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, share with us the aha moment, that time when you realized teaching is for you.
Well, it was during my senior year in college, and I was volunteering as part of my practicum for my psychology degree, working at a school, working with individual students who I was used in the classroom kind of in the beginning just to be there to observe and help. And eventually I was given small groups and worked with children who really needed that extra support. And the teacher was great. She let me try out lessons with the whole class and with groups. And just being in that classroom, I don't think there was really one moment. I think it was that whole experience that really made me realize that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in schools. I wanted to work with kids.
And how old were you?
I was a senior in college, so I was 22.
So what did you want to do
22.
before that?
I had no idea.
You had no idea.
Nope. I knew I loved children, wanted
Yeah.
to work somehow. I thought maybe about going into the field of psychology. That was my degree. But in the end, I wanted to be teaching children and working with them in the classrooms.
Okay. All right. So
I was directionless before that.
you were directionless, and then you found teaching.
Yes.
This is good. Yeah, a lot of teachers I've noticed that when I interview them, they kind of fell into the teaching world too, and they realized that they love teaching. Especially the
Well, I
young
didn't
kids.
love it at first. I mean, I wanted to be a teacher, and then I became a teacher, and it's hard. The first few years were really a struggle. Just a lot.
What were the toughest parts?
I think the amount of work, not having enough time to get everything done, knowing, really what I wanted it to be, what I wanted my classroom to be, and not being able to get there just because of the sheer size of my class or the lack of time. Dealing with parents was difficult because I was young and they were all older than I was. And
Right.
it's hard the first few years, really. I think that, I thought about trying to find a different career at one point. Now I love it. Now I just really enjoy
So
it.
what helped you get through over that hump of actually sticking with it and facing all of those challenges?
Not knowing what else to do. No, partly. No other choice.
You were young. You were young.
I
back
was
then,
young.
right? You were-
No choice, really. Like, okay, I
Right.
got to stick with this. I have a job. And needing to pay the bills. And, quite honestly, after doing it for 2 or 3 years, it definitely, it gets easier. Being able, especially when I was teaching the first couple of years I moved around classes. And so it was always like starting over.
Right.
But once I was able to stick with one grade level for a few years and build some confidence, and that experience, I think, helped me get through that. And then I took some time off after my children were born. And honestly, having my own kids also, I think, and getting older
Right.
makes things a little bit easier.
Much older now.
Much older, I know, Fred. What, you're 6 months younger than I am, I think.
Hey, I'm only 27, so. But you're 28.
27 plus what?
Stop it. Stop it. Couple more decades with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Not much.
you mentioned that you have your children. Okay. So how does that affect you now in your own philosophy of teaching? You're a parent, and you have 2 kids, and how does that affect you with how you teach, but also in talking or engaging with your children's teachers?
Right. Well, I look back to when I was a younger teacher and didn't have my own children, and I used to get really frustrated with the parents. Like, I would send things home and no one would reply. Things would sit in the children's backpacks for weeks. And like, what are these people doing? How can they not look in their kids' backpacks? Just little things like that. And now I am that parent. So
Right.
I
And I think I'm there, too.
I definitely commiserate with the parents a bit, maybe. I
Right.
understand them more. I have more empathy. So, and with family life and what these kids, what happens when they leave school and how busy they are and what life is like after school hours, I have a better understanding of these families. And I think that's helped me quite a bit. Is that what you asked me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You definitely understand now why parents aren't getting back to you sooner, right?
Yeah. And just what, as far as even things like homework and what is appropriate for kids to work on as, with homework and how busy kids are outside of school, all of that I have a better understanding of. And
Right.
and how busy parents are and how hard it is to be a parent and juggle everything.
And when you interact with your children's teachers, you
I'm usually apologizing because I'm the one that forgot to send in the form. Because I know what it's like being on the other side, not getting that form.
right,
Yeah.
right, you understand that, and hopefully they understand that too.
I showed up to a parent-teacher conference a week early once. Yeah, that's me.
That's you.
That's me.
Wow. Okay.
And she was so nice. She even did the conference right then.
Oh, she did?
She did.
That's
I said she
nice.
didn't have to, but she did. I felt so
Wow. You caught her off guard. Well, she was probably
bad.
ready.
Did.
But you
Well,
know.
she was a great teacher. She knew I wasn't,
Yeah.
going to hold anything against her for not being totally prepared since I was a week early.
Okay. Better than a week late. That would be irritating.
I've not shown up too. That's happened.
Okay. Quote or a mantra. What is your favorite? If you have one, you have a quote or motto or a saying or whatever it can be that helps you with your teaching. What would it be? What is it? Like, I need a drink. That's a quote.
Yeah, that's
I can't wait till it's over. Can't wait
Yes.
till June.
June, July, and August are the best months of the year. No, there's a couple things. One I would say is when I was a senior in college working at that school in San Francisco, when I decided to become a teacher, the teacher there, she said something that's kind of stuck with me. She's like, they learn in spite of us. So I try to remember that I can't do everything, that I can't get everything done. I can't have a perfect
Right.
running classroom the way that, it's all shiny and happy and perfect. And trying to create that kind of classroom is impossible and just creates too much stress. So I just do my best, and I say to myself, well, they learn in spite of me.
They learn in spite of you.
In spite of me. And also the other thing I try to remind myself is, to have fun. I spend more time here at school than I do anywhere else, and it better be fun, or it can be miserable if you let it.
You're gonna go crazy.
You will. You'll go crazy, and you can be totally stressed out and miserable, or you can decide, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy myself and not worry if I don't get everything done.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. They are learning in spite of you, right? In spite of all of us.
I hope so.
Okay. What I ask a lot of our guests also, and a lot of the listeners like to hear the answers to this, or the tips and ideas. Can you name, or can you share a moment in time of a challenging moment that you had with a student or with a parent, and how you overcame that?
Are parents going to listen to this?
Parents are probably not, but they may.
I won't
open
name
to the
names.
rest of the world. Don't name names.
I won't name names,
yes.
and it was a long time ago.
Okay.
But if this person does hear it, she might know who I'm talking about. So this was several years ago, and I had a child in my class who liked to go home and tell stories that weren't always true because, they would experience something that a 6-year-old, or he would experience something that a 6-year-old would experience, and whatever that experience was would then go through his 6-year-old filter in his brain.
This is first grade?
Yes.
Was I in this class?
No.
Okay.
It narrows it down, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does narrow it down.
And so things would go through his 6-year-old brain, filtered through, and come out as not really what happened, right?
Okay.
I don't think he was outwardly trying to fib. But his version of events wasn't quite accurate. So he went home, and I honestly can't even remember what he told his mother I said. It was something that was criticizing her, that I had criticized her to him, which I wouldn't do. Right? Who would do that?
Unless you're nuts.
This was a time before email, really. I mean, there was email, but it wasn't used as much as it is now.
Communication with
Right.
parents.
So I would get voicemail messages. So I had a voicemail from this parent within half an hour after dismissal, which was a usual thing with her, but this especially. So I talked to her, and I tried to reassure her that I would never criticize her in front of her child. And she basically accused me of lying. Yeah. So it was hard. And this was about a week before parent conferences.
Wait, how did she approach you?
She phoned and left a message for me to call her.
Oh, okay.
So I called her back.
Okay.
And was accused of lying when I denied that I said what he had said. And I don't remember what it was exactly. So that parent conference a week later was not so much fun. And I just decided to, and I've done this a couple times, where I just am very direct with the parents and just take it head on. And I just said, I'm really having a hard time getting past our phone conversation where you basically accused me of lying. And so then it didn't work out too well. The conversation went downhill from there. I wasn't super delicate with her.
But she insulted you.
She did, and I wanted to clear the air, and I wanted her to understand that I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have criticized her in front of her son.
Right.
It worked out in the end. She kind of blew up and left, and the next day wrote me an apology letter. So and from that point forward, we got along very well. So sometimes being direct with the parents helps and works really well, and other times, you have to finesse it a little bit, depending on the personality of that parent.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that sticks out as probably the biggest event with a parent that I've had.
And that's probably common also with teachers and parent, the whole dynamics. That probably is pretty common. But I'm glad it worked out. Good.
I ran into her probably a year ago. We had a nice conversation.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I think she's obviously moved past it. Her son is now.
Do I know this parent?
I'm not naming names.
Okay, don't name names.
You may have heard of her. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
No,
there's a backlog.
she's a lovely lady, and
Very good.
she was
You
looking.
worked it out. You worked it out.
She was looking out for her child and herself.
Exactly.
And I understand that.
You do the same thing. Okay. Okay. So I know earlier, as before we stepped into the sound room here, you didn't have a book or a song or even movie that kind of inspires you. You even question, like, what is this question about? But is there anything that inspires you? Something in pop culture. Let me open it up that way. Something in pop culture.
Pop culture, like Kardashians or something? No.
Or what's the other one you kept on talking about before, you and Krista? It was the Honey Boo Boo thing.
Oh, Honey Boo Boo. Yeah, no.
That's a big one.
Not so much.
It doesn't inspire you?
It inspires me to do other things. Yeah, it's a hard one. I honestly, like the books I read, I find myself reading a lot of children's literature since this is only my second year teaching fourth grade. So I feel like I'm constantly trying to read things that they're reading.
Can you name some books, at least in your fourth grade?
Books in my fourth grade. So
is that the Harry Potter stuff yet?
Some of them read that.
Okay.
Yeah, I read those a long time ago. But I was reading this summer's. I really enjoyed reading. It's called One Crazy Summer. It's about in the 60s in Oakland and these children that move out to the Bay Area to be with their mother for a summer who is involved with the Black Panthers. So it's an interesting read. I read a lot of books that revolve around the Gold Rush, California Gold Rush. So there's, the By the Great Horn Spoon that my students read. I'm always looking for new things about California history or that tie into California history so that I can integrate the subjects. Find that's the best way to get through the most amount of curriculum is to try to integrate the reading and the writing and the social studies.
Okay, so you have a very unique experience. You started in the classroom, then you went to the computer lab, and then you took some time off to be with your family. And then you came back into the computer lab, which we transformed into the Spark Studio. And now you're back in the classroom.
Right.
And this is a question, how, from what you know now, from all the experience you did that, is there a tip or a trick, or how do you integrate technology in the classroom now, being in the classroom?
Not as much as I would like. It's interesting.
Right, because you were one of an ICE, an Educational Innovation Coordinator, and you went through that. One of our jobs is to help teachers start using technology and innovate, right? From your point of view now as a classroom teacher,
right?
What's your experience with that?
Well, you'd think I'd go in and be using technology left and right just from my background, but being new to a grade level and really trying to learn all that curriculum and learn where the students are at this age and piece it all together has been a huge, overwhelming task. And I do use technology. The children all have one-to-one iPads that they use. I would like to use it more. I find myself sometimes forgetting to use the technology in that I'll be like, oh, I could have done that. Why didn't we use the iPads for that? It's not coming to me because I'm too busy trying to get everything else together at this point. So one of my goals actually is to this year, and especially next school year, my third year in fourth grade, is to really use it more and use it how I really want to use it. But it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about, having this perfect classroom that has everything like the way it should be. Like in my mind, I know what it should be. I just can't get there right now.
Reality gets in the way.
Reality gets in the way, definitely.
Okay.
So I do use it. I do use technology. The students, I try to let them have as much choice as I can. And technology is always one of those choices. So some children have ideas of ways to use it, and I usually let them go with it.
Can you share at least one way the kids are using it?
Well, we are...
The iPads.
The iPads, yeah. So sometimes what I'll have them do at the end of reading a novel is have them do some kind of report using the iPads. And I leave it kind of open so they can make a movie about it. They can do either an iMovie or an iMovie trailer. They can use the audio. Oh, gosh, what is that app called? Is it Audio, where they do like a little slideshow and they have their voice in? I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Audio, isn't it? Anyway, they can do that. There's lots of choices. They can make a little book about it using Book Creator.
So you're giving this as an option for them to do it.
Yes. Or they can make a poster, or they can not use the iPad. So
that's a key thing. What you did, you're giving them the choice to do that. And I think that's one of the things that I think some teachers are struggling with technology, using the iPads or Chromebooks or whatever, is that they would have to know everything. Using the technology. Now, of course, you're unique where you have that background. You know how to use the iPads and so on. But what's one tip you can share with the teachers struggling to use technology?
Right. I think what's important is to decide, well, why do you want them to do this project? What is it you want them to show? You want them to show their learning and what they know. So that can be done in a variety of ways. And you have to just be open to letting them show their learning in different ways. So, I don't like to get 22, or in this case, I have 42 students. I don't like to get 42 projects that are all the same. That's boring.
Right.
So I like leaving it up to them. They can still show their learning in multiple different ways, and it could all be different, but they're still showing me their learning. I think you just have to kind of let go and be able to do that. And I don't know if that's a really good piece of advice or a tip, but you have to get to that point where you're and you can still give them parameters, that, if making a movie is one of the options, well, then give them parameters within that your movie has to have, X, Y, and Z in it. And that way you still have some control over it.
What's your favorite tech tool?
My favorite tech tool.
Tech tool, resources, or website that you actually like using?
You're going to laugh.
Am I laughing? What is it?
Your iPhone? No. Well, yeah, I like my phone. My new watch.
Your Apple Watch?
My Apple Watch. No, I really actually like Pinterest. Very simple. There's so much on there. I can always, if I'm stuck for an idea,
Pinterest,
and I do a search, 9 times out of 10, it's on Pinterest.
Right. It's true.
And I know I knew you were going to laugh at me, but it's true. I can always get different ideas, or I get an idea and I tweak it and make it my own and take it off from there.
Sharon, she loves that. Last year she didn't like it.
There's everything on there.
There's everything on there, right? I mean, you just type in like kitchen stuff or whatever.
I don't have time to make my own Pinterest page. Who has time for that? But
you're
teachers
pinning
do
stuff,
for some
or
reason.
you're subscribing to boards or whatever. Yeah, I don't know how it works. But yeah, Sharon loves it. I don't like Pinterest, and maybe just the layout, how it works out, and it's not really geared for at least my style of consuming things. I just notice a lot of, I'm going to say it, women love Pinterest. And men, very rare do I find.
The only thing I look on there for are teaching things and gardening. That's it.
That's
how I get ideas. And all I do is look at the pictures And if it's something interesting, then I click on it and try to find it. The other site that actually is often on there is Teachers Pay Teachers.
That's a big one.
I like that
Yeah.
site too because that way I don't have to recreate something that's already out there.
And people are making money with that, too.
I know, and I've thought about putting things on there, but again, I don't have time.
You don't have
I
time.
don't have time to make my own stuff to sell.
Exactly. But if you
That's-
make something and then it's a hit, you'll have more time to do the things you want.
Well, maybe at some point I'll give it a try.
Okay. So, what's something happening now that you're excited to learn about more? Or about?
Something I want to learn about. One of my regrets is not learning another language. And I took a lot of Spanish in high school and college. Really don't remember much because it was all just written and reading, not a lot of conversational Spanish, and I didn't really use it. So I really want to learn. I want to go back and study Spanish and really learn it. And I'd love to find a way, because my students take a semester of Spanish, it would be really great to find a way to do more of a immersion style, like parts of the day in Spanish, even if it's just like the morning meeting or, try to incorporate that into the classroom to help them with learning Spanish as well. So I have this idea kind of rolling around in my head, and I need to find a way to go and do it and do like an immersion myself and learn Spanish. So that's kind of one of my future goals is to get on that and learn a language.
That's cool. That's a very
It
useful thing.
It also ties in because I teach about Spanish colonialism
Right.
in the 1500s, and all of that kind of ties together. So it would be kind of cool to bring it into the history that I teach as well.
Okay. What project have you done in the classroom that you're most proud of?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
I guess it's not the Spanish.
I didn't look at that question. I didn't see that one. I didn't think about that. Project that I'm really proud of in the classroom. Oh, I know. So I do this thing. Last year I called it the California Showcase, and this year I changed the name to California Bonanza. I think it sounds better. So
Ponderosa Ranch. Okay.
I know. So basically, it's kind of a culmination of all of the history that my students learn. They take that, I divide them up into groups, and they research a topic or a period of history so that they've already learned about, but they dig in deeper. And as a group, they write a play. So we do a little bit of playwriting with it. And they perform the plays for the parents at the end of April. So we start with the early Californians, the Native Americans. So there's a skit with that. Then we move into the explorers and Spanish California, Mexican California, the Gold Rush, and statehood. So they take and create plays about each of those periods of history or periods within California history, and then perform them. They write the plays themselves. They make the props. They create all of it. It's a huge project. They have They bring in things for costumes. We'll even do some sewing if we need to. It's really child-centered, child-made, the whole thing, with the teachers kind of we're the guides to make sure that they stay on track.
So when did you start this project? Because you said they present it in April?
Yeah, so this is only my second year doing it, and we're starting it now. I wanted to start it earlier, but it just didn't happen. So, and this year I'm incorporating it into our informational writing unit. So I've divided them into groups. They're getting their topics. They then individually have to choose a topic within that period of history to work on during the informational writing unit that we're doing. So that way they're getting all the research done, and they really feel that they understand that period of California history. So that when in about a month they sit down to write the play as a group, they'll have a lot more research and information in their heads and in their work that they can share to write a play. And then we practice and rewrite and revise. It's a lot of work, but the kids love it and they perform it. And the favorite topic last year was the Donner Party, of course.
The Donner Party.
Oh, yeah. I tried to just keep it about, pioneers and people, coming out to settle in
So
California.
they're reenacting the whole Donner Party?
They decided to...
With beef jerky, they're like...
There was no beef jerky, Fred.
Well,
We kept it tasteful.
Using it as a prop, no?
We kept it tasteful. They wrote, the one group that did about the pioneers wrote their skit about the pioneers, definitely talked about the Donner Party in theirs, and it was pretty funny. We kept it. It was appropriate.
Okay.
That's
Wow,
where
okay.
that's where we step in
Okay,
and make
that's where you
sure
step in,
yes, the teachers step in at that point.
Okay, so how do you inspire your students?
How do I inspire them? I don't know. I try to use humor as much as possible. They're here just like we are, more than they are at home, and I think it's important that they feel safe and happy at school because they can't learn if they don't feel safe and happy. So I try to tell stories. I think teaching history can be dry, so I try to create stories out of it as much as possible.
One thing that I've learned also is to get to know your students, right? And I know you're doing that. How about the other way around? Do you share what's going on with your students?
I do. I think it's important that they feel a connection with the teacher. And in order to feel a connection, you have to really know a person. And I share little tidbits. They know about my family. I have children their age, and I talk about them. And they love that. They love hearing any little tidbit, excuse me, any little tidbit I can throw out there that's about me.
Right. And they're gonna hang on to that.
So yesterday I actually blow dried my hair and used a flat iron, and it was the first thing they noticed this morning. Oh, Mrs. Corrigan, your hair looks gorgeous. Like they just, any little difference they notice.
Well, that's a good one. I mean, otherwise,
good.
The other way around, sometimes they'll just criticize you.
Oh, they will. Yeah.
Your hair is ugly today.
Well, they're not quite like that. The girls are more subtle. They look and they'll say things like, "Wow, you must really like those shoes." Like, why? Because I wear them a lot? Yeah, you do. You wear them a lot.
So wait a minute. You kids are in your dress uniform. You guys are always wearing the same things.
I know. So funny.
Okay, so we have a couple more minutes left in this interview.
Okay. I'm scared. What else are you gonna ask me?
Time-saving tip.
Time-saving tip.
Don't
do it. That's the time-saving tip. Just don't do it. No. I don't know.
Good one. That's a good one. Why do you say that?
Well, sometimes you have to decide what's important. And, I could be here till 6:00 every day and still not get everything done. So I have to decide what's important right now and get that finished. And some things don't really have to be done. I have to decide, do I really need to do this? Does this have to be done? Maybe in a perfect world, I'd want it to be finished. But sometimes I'm like, nope, I don't have time. It's not needed. And I need to focus on other stuff.
You're learning how you are prioritizing
Yes.
things, right?
Yeah.
What needs to be done.
Yeah, I think early on I tried to do everything and wanted everything to be perfect, and I would be at school so late every day and neglecting my family, and I try not to do that anymore. I try to get out of here and pick up my kids and enjoy time with my family.
Good. That's very good advice. Speaking tip, advice, would that be the best advice you would have for teachers? Or is there another tip or advice that you want to share
I
with
think
teachers?
going back to what I was saying before about there's not enough time in the day. And you ask teachers often, like, what is it you really want? They often say more time. Well, it's not going to make any difference. You're still not going to have that perfect, bright and shiny little classroom that has everything you want done in it. It's impossible. So it's hard as a teacher because you know what it should look like, and you just can't. Reality
because you're looking into Pinterest. That's why.
Yes, because I'm looking at Pinterest.
That's why you keep looking at the perfection.
Maybe
but
true.
You don't
Maybe that's
see
true.
the work behind all that stuff.
Yeah. I think prioritizing, choosing what to do and what not to do, being okay with it not getting done. I think you have to get to the point where you're okay with that. We're like, oh well, I didn't get it done. Doesn't look like that I wanted it to look. Oh well, move on.
Oh well, move on.
And use and try to use humor and have fun.
Very cool. Very cool. All right.
Anything else?
I think that's what I'm done. I'm done with all these questions.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Did you really enjoy this?
I did. I was a little nervous. I didn't know what it was going to be like, but It was,
Okay, Corinne,
fun.
thank you so much for joining our show. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you for listening to the Teaching Bites podcast at www.teachingbites.com.